Flight boss, bitch, you know, for sure. You're now listening to the Mind of Planetary's Moon, Flight boss, the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucker responsibilities. And right now I want to talk about the sun. What is the sun, and what is the sun actually doing? Now, we want to erase the motherfucking names and all the meanings and the titles that y'all done heard from it, that y'all done got indoctrinated by from scientists and shit. But right now, we're going to talk about what is the motherfucking actual sun and what is the sun doing. Now, before we break this down, this is what you need to understand. Us as spirits are creating shapes and forms for us to possess or inhabit to experience. So we are creating shapes and forms that can mimic the spirit the best way possible, but be able to experience that time. So when you look at the sun in astrology, what does the sun represent? What you're consciously aware of, what people view from you, how you view things, how you see things, how you act, your actions. That's what it represents. So as a spirit, this is one of the first forms of bodies we created to inhabit, to experience. So when you look at the sun will be one of the first bodies we created as a spirit to be consciously aware of ourselves, to experience ourselves. So the sun is like a form of, it's like a body of consciousness, and that was a form we created in order to experience ourselves as spirits. So for the most part, the sun is the body we created to be consciously aware. So we created a body of light to ride, and we give this body of light an impression, and it's the first forms of body. So when you're looking at each planet, each star, this is each form of body, each world. So when you hear things about the seven existences and the seven worlds and the seven, you are in these worlds every day, but one world is lighter than the other, so the experience is more faster than the other. So when you talk about Mercury, that's the world of thought, imagination, communication. So Marduk or whatever. So for the most part, that world is faster because your thoughts is much faster, less physical. So they move much faster, and it doesn't take a lot of time to move. You know what I'm saying? Then once we get to the lower stars and shit like that, things get more dense and physical once we start to get the Venus and Mars and shit like that. So what is the sun, and what is the sun actually doing? So look, check this out. Since you are in an overall, right, you have a sun yourself. Now the sun is one of the first forms of bodies you created, so your spirit to take, so it can be consciously aware, and it's the first form of action it could take. Because you need to understand, everything is a shape and form. The spirit don't have one. So the spirit is creating these things. So as the sun, or a body of light, that's a light form. So that's what you create, as you can take you can inhabit that shape and act out your expression. So the sun is one of the first things we create. So when you look at the sun, it's like the solar plexus and things of that nature. So we know it's dealing with center. So it's always the center of the rotation, because it's the first body that start creating the other shapes and forms of the imagination. So for the most part, your sun is what your spirit used to go up and down your body and give life to all your other blood cells and all your other organs and shit like that, the chakras or whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? You use that Citron 1 as a spirit to move up and down. Now you can't look at this as a wake or sleep thing, because here's what you need to understand. If you are a lesser being and a larger being, then that time, and this is what astrology understands, is higher clocks and lower clocks. So that time is much larger than this time. So for an example, if you want to come up with the argument of saying that is correlated to you going to sleep and waking up, you have to look at it like this. If that larger clock or larger being time is longer, then we have examples every day in our 24 hours where people being up for 48 hours, people being up for almost a week. You know what I'm saying? So it's impossible to be the lesser life but live a day longer than a larger clock day. You know what I'm saying? So if we was to correlate the 24 hours to this being we are in going to sleep and waking up, but we got the blood cells, which is us, within it being able to stay up longer than the day of the being we are in, that doesn't make any sense. So this is what you need to understand. It's moving fast. So we're just calculating time and calling it a 24 hours. But this thing that's this thing that we use as a spirit to move up and down in our body is moving fast, whether we are awake or sleep. It is going up and down within us, and it never sleeps. This is one of the first bodies we use as a spirit, and the spirit don't sleep. But in the spirit love bodies that mimic the spirit. You see what I'm saying? So it goes up and down rapidly. You know what I'm saying? So it goes fast within us. So since we are within a being, when we see this on a rotational level, right, it appears to be fast compared to the life it's in, because to us it's only 24 hours. You see what I'm saying? So for the most part, this body that we use, this central light that we use, we utilize that to go up and down in our body to give life to all the other blood cells and organs. So when you look at the sun, right, now you need to understand this too. Relative to space, there's no such thing as up and down. It's this movement to however the body is standing or laying. You see what I'm saying? So that's relative to us. But for the most part, when you look up, it's the same thing. When it's the solar system is the being we are in. The solar system is the organs, and the star constellations is the tissues and the skin and the bones and the wrapping around. You see what I'm saying? So for the most part, when you're looking up at the sun, based upon the being we are, like I said, we are in a being that's in a larger being, that's in a larger being, that's in a world. You see what I'm saying? Now, for the most part, when you look at the sun based upon our perspective in the being we are in, right, what you're seeing is our solar plexus, right? And that spirit of the being we are in created that form to be the first body to represent it. You see what I'm saying? In physical form, physical light. So the spirit is within that, move it, and then that spirit move up. The spirit is in that body. Now that body, which is the first body it likes to take, so we call it the quote-unquote sun, it goes up and down and gives life and direction to all the other planets, aka organs, right? And since we are the blood cells, the linear life in that, this is where we get our energy influence from the planet's rotation, because they're being led by the sun. And then these are the other forms of bodies. So like I said, you as a spirit, boom, you created the sun body. Boom, that's your ability to be aware that you are a spirit in physical form, which is the lightest form though, your light body, which is the sun. Then boom, you did something with Mercury. Boom, you divided yourself. That's the soul. Boom, Mercury is the body that you created, the world that you created of intellect and communication. So your spirit can utilize the sun. This is why everything is filtered through your sun. You see what I'm saying? Then the Mercury is the word that you use for your intellect. Venus is the word that you use for your love and appreciation of value. Mars is the word that you created for your intent, willpower, passion, and motivation. You see what I'm saying? Jupiter is the word that you created for your wisdom, knowledge. This is why it's the mysticism planet. Saturn is the word that you created for structure, reality, and things of that nature. But you're getting a smaller portion of the larger energies of this because of the being that we are in. You see what I'm saying? So the lightest body that you have to use as a spirit is your sun. But y'all just call it the sun. I like to call it just a light form, or just the first form, the first form and shape. You know what I'm saying? That you can experience your spirit in a reality. So as a spirit, the spirit is connected to the unknown, the dark realm, that's always unseen. And in the spirit astral realm, we're creating shapes and forms based upon our rotations and travels. So and what's relatives. So what comes out of that space is these lights and shapes and forms, and we inhabit them as we inhabit these gas, sounds, and lights as bodies to experience that realm of reality. Now, one of the lightest forms we create is the light form. So we take that as a spirit, and then we can act that as an expression, but then that don't sustain long enough, so we utilize our sun form to create the other forms, so we can use to experience more of our imagination as a spirit. So we're taking all these bodies and we're adding layers to ourselves. This is why in the physical form, in the physical flesh, you have what's in the middle of your brain, you have what's in the middle of all your organs. Then it start developing layers from this expansion and contraction. Then you become a layered person. You see what I'm saying? So that's what the sun is, regardless of what names and whatever you're trying to tie to it. And that's why it appear to be going up or down, or be leaving your site at times and leaving another site. Remind you, you are just a blood cell on a specific organ. So you are just a being in a specific spot within the body. So based upon relative to you, where you see the travel of the first body of our spirit, of the body that we are in, the first form of body is the light body, and that light body give life to all the other bodies, so they can start taking physical forms and eventually become their own lights. You see what I'm saying? But for the most part, these are the circumstances and situations that we are in. So, you know, this holds the conscious. So this is how we can see what a person's spirit is consciously aware of, because the first physical form that the spirit create is the sun. So the sun is your actions, with how you see things, what you're consciously aware of, and it's what I could consciously see from you. So for the most part, if you was just a dead stiff person with no spirit or no energy, I won't know your expression. I won't know how you act. So I won't know I won't know your spirit. You see what I'm saying? But if you utilize that first form of body, which is your enlightened body, you show light, your source, with aka your actions, what other people can see from you, then we can kind of see how your spirit act through that first shape and form. You know what I'm saying? But your spirit has no body or words to use, so your spirit can't live in its imagination or dreams. So it just create bodies. You know what I'm saying? So say like this was the contraction world and this the spirit world, right? And say as a spirit you want to take a shape and form, it's like you go in it, boop, then like it blows up, right? then that's a realm of reality after that. You know what I'm saying? That you could create and shit like that, and start creating wombs and shit for yourself. So people have to understand this goes deep. When we talk about going into bodies, even from each blood cell, you know what I'm saying? You gotta resonate, and then each spirit take a blood cell. But that's another video. I don't want to get off track. But what is the sun, and what is the sun doing? The sun is the first form you create as a spirit to be consciously aware that you can act in a form as a spirit. You see what I'm saying? So that's the first like the first robot, first atom or something like that you take. You know what I'm saying? And then once you take that, you can utilize that first form to create a bunch of other forms. You see what I'm saying? Because it's the conscious. It's like the conscious. You create the conscious. The spirit is kind of like unaware, so it can't experience its imaginations. So it creates a shape and form, which this first shape and form is the first light body. You know what I'm saying? The light form. And then that light form, right, once the spirit possess it, that's the first form it possess. And it possess awareness. It possess consciousness. Consciousness awareness that is here. So now it's able to be riding around and divide itself and separate itself and become its own light out of the overall light. But it's a body, and it's trying to go through different realms of realities to add things to itself to become more dense, so it could become a light that end up not reflecting light anymore, and then it could just become its own. That's when it become like a universe or a black hole or something like that, where it done got so much information from the world, you know what I'm saying, and transformed so much that now the spirit can do a whole bunch of shit with this shit. The spirit almost can create a body that mimic the spirit, and it'll be unseen in the physical world, but it controls the physical world. You see, it goes deep. But you have to be really spiritually inclined to really understand this, though. But that's what the sun is, and that's what the sun doing. Flight boss, bitch, goddamn air. It's giving life to all your other life in you, because it was the first body that your spirit take. So it was one of the biggest, lightest bodies that your spirit take within you. And it goes, and then you utilize that spirit to go up and down in you constantly all day, whether you're asleep or awake. You constantly make this go up and down so you can be consciously aware of your whole body, and you give life, aka light, to your whole body as a spirit with that first form. Flight boss, bitch, goddamn air.